Peace and the mercy and blessings of God be with you. Thank you for joining me for the last episode within the series of 30 days for 30 days to a better you. Last time we were talking about, in the spirit of Eid, relaxation and enjoyment, sports and plays and all of that. Now, as we come to the end, I want to talk about steadfastness, what is called in Arabic istiqamah. And I want to recap basically the whole series and think about all of the serious things we talked about, and also think about how to maintain those after Ramadan. But let me ask you a question. Did you ever read a verse of the Quran, or at least start reading it, and then halfway through you break down crying and you couldn't even continue and finish reading the verse? Well, it happened to Sheikh Abdurrahman Hassan, and you will find this in his YouTube video that is on the channel Al-Madrasatul Omariya. This Sheikh started out, he was talking about the same subject, steadfastness, remaining on the right path and all of that. And then he recited a verse from the Quran, which is in the 41st chapter, Surah Fussilat, the 30th verse, which says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. As for those who say, my Lord is Allah, and remains steadfast on that, the angels will descend upon them, saying to them, have no fear nor grief. نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. We are your friends in this life and in the life hereafter. So, and then more is mentioned in that verse, and that, in Jannah you will have whatever you desire and so on, if you remain steadfast. So at some point, this sheikh, maybe when he mentioned the angels descending upon the people, he broke down in tears. He was there standing, giving a lecture, and in the middle of this verse, he couldn't continue. Of course, after gathering his thoughts, after a while, he did finish. But for that moment, he was so struck. And it was a moving moment for me as well, just to see him in that situation and to realize that he is so moved by the verse. The verse speaks of steadfastness, and the sheikh was saying, well, you know what, I really shouldn't be the one to talk about this because I don't have the steadfastness myself. Well, let me ask myself, do I really have that steadfastness to be able to talk to you about it? And I have to confess that, like all human beings, I have my failings as well, as the sheikh pointed out with regards to himself. So let's continue to practice that humility. But at the same time, let's talk about the subject as a responsibility. Yes, this is a part of our teaching in our faith, and it's not only mentioned in that one verse of the Quran. Similar words are also mentioned in the 46th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Ahqaf. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Those who say, my Lord is Allah, and remain steadfast upon that, they shall neither fear nor grieve. So, how do we remain steadfast? Like throughout the month of Ramadan, we were doing so many good things like prayer and fasting and charity and all of that, and reciting the Quran. How can we remain steadfast with that after the Ramadan is over? And in the 30 days to a better you, we'll identify so many traits that we should be inculcating in our lives, one day at a time. So we dealt with these various traits on so many different subcategories, like solidifying our faith and practice, strengthening our relationships with other people, being holistic persons, controlling the tongue, strengthening the spiritual heart, and feeding the mind. How can we continue to do this after Ramadan is over? Naturally, as Ramadan comes to an end, we are now in the spirit to go back to some of the things that we have left behind. Not evil things, naturally, because good Muslims are not going to return to their evil things, but we might have had busy schedules prior to Ramadan. We adjusted our schedules in order to fit in more prayers and to accommodate our fasting and reading of the Quran and all of that. So naturally, we're going to go back to some of that busy schedule. But let us be sure, for one thing, we cannot return to sins. Secondly, even as we return to our busy schedules, let us continue to factor in time for all of the things that are important to us that we were practicing during the month of Ramadan. Let us make sure we continue with charity, which of course does not require a lot of time, but requires sacrifice of our funds. and the willingness to part with our funds for the sake of God and to help people who are in need. But let us also continue to read the Quran and listen to the Quran. Sometimes it doesn't require that much more time, because as we're driving or walking or waiting in line at a bank or something like this, we could be reading the Quran. And for what requires more time, let's factor in the time. You need to study the Quran more intently. You need time for that. And as we found out in a previous episode, time is not something you're going to find. It's something that you have to make. You have to make time for what you consider to be important. So schedule in time for reading the Quran, times for additional prayers, and time for cultivating all of the good qualities that we mentioned in the previous episode, so that we can continue to strengthen our spiritual heart, to control the tongue, solidify our relationships, and also strengthen our commitment to the various pillars of faith and practice in Islam. So after Ramadan, naturally, that height that we had in that spiritual height we had in Ramadan is going to be lowered, but let it not be lowered to lower than it was at the end of the last Ramadan, so that with each Ramadan, we should be rising higher spiritually. And then when we come down after Ramadan, we shouldn't be coming down all the way to the bottom, but our low now should be higher than the previous lows, so that we have a continuing upward trend with the highs and lows, high in Ramadan, low after Ramadan, but our highs are higher than the previous highs, and our lows are higher than the previous lows. So continue with faith and practice, continue to be steadfast, and may the angels descend upon you, saying to you, لا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا. Fear not, nor grieve. نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا. We are your friends in this world, وفي الآخرة, and in the life hereafter. ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم, and you will have therein whatever your souls desire. ولكم فيها ما تدعون, and you will have therein whatever you call for. And may God unite us all together, as we've been together throughout this series in Ramadan. We pray that God will unite us together under the shade of His throne on the day of judgment. All the best, peace be with you, and Eid Mubarak. Support us today and help us share the message of Islam with people across the globe. Thank you, and may God bless you and your loved ones with the very best always.